A girl confesses her love to Makoto, but for various reasons, he cannot return her feelings and turns her down. Devastated, the girl runs away in tears. Afterward, Makoto thanks his teacher for being there to monitor the confession. He had asked her to observe just to make sure that the confession was genuine and not a prank. His teacher, however, expresses concern about Makoto's distrust of others. She advises him to open up a bit more to form connections and make friends. Makoto, however, insists he doesn't need friends and leaves abruptly. He believes that as long as he moves carefully and avoids mistakes, he won't encounter any more problems. He vows never to repeat the errors of his past. In elementary school, Makoto had been the class clown, using his humor to make his crush, Shizuka, laugh. One day, while they were joking around on the playground, Shizuka accidentally tripped on a rock and fell. Despite Makoto's protests of innocence, he was accused of pushing her intentionally. As he noticed Shizuka's knee bleeding, he quickly ran to get band-aids from his bag. But by the time he returned, his classmates had already taken her to the nurse. This incident led to Makoto becoming the class scapegoat, and rumors began to spread, painting him as a troublemaker. Nobody believed his side of the story, but he hoped that his family would stand by him. Unfortunately, his family did not support him. Upon hearing that he had supposedly hurt a girl, Makoto's mother called Shizuka's mother and forced him to apologize. With no friends and no family to rely on, Makoto felt utterly isolated. Convinced that no one believed him, he chose to withdraw and stopped speaking entirely. In middle school, Makoto befriended a girl named Saito after returning her phone, which she had accidentally left behind. A close friendship blossomed between them, bringing Makoto a rare sense of happiness. But once again, a misunderstanding led to disaster. A rumor spread that Makoto had attacked Saito, and he found himself alone once more, as no one believed his side of the story. Later, a girl named Kisaragi asked Makoto to be her boyfriend despite his tarnished reputation. Cautiously hopeful, Makoto agreed to start as friends and arranged to meet her that weekend. However, on the day of their planned date, he discovered that it was all part of a cruel prank set up by some boys in his class, with Kisaragi reluctantly participating. Her confession was nothing more than a punishment game, crushing Makoto's spirit completely. The fragile hope he'd begun to feel after his friendship with Saito was now utterly shattered, leaving him heartbroken and more withdrawn than ever. Though Makoto closed off his heart, misfortune continued to follow him, deepening his resolve to avoid connections altogether. A few weeks pass, and a girl named Nanako unexpectedly befriends Makoto. Although her friends warn her that he is trouble, Nanako genuinely doesn't seem to care. One day, she invites him out to karaoke with some friends. Since they wouldn't be alone, Makoto decides to go, thinking he could trust her. Unfortunately, he ends up regretting it as yet again he has been tricked. He feels frustrated with himself for falling for the same trap repeatedly. When Makoto enters high school, he is surprised to find that Shizuka, his old crush, also attends the same school. Having learned his lesson from previous experiences, he chooses not to get involved with her or any other female classmates. Despite this, Shizuka follows him home one day. She comments on his gloomy demeanor and his lack of friends, offering to be his friend while explaining that she never believed the rumors about him. Her sudden approach stirs a sense of discomfort in Makoto, and he questions why she is only reaching out to him now. Shizuka explains that she was too nervous to talk to him back in middle school and didn't know how to support him when he became the subject of school gossip. Makoto, however, is unmoved. He tells her that it is too late for her to show trust in him after all this time. He wishes she would keep her distance, feeling burdened by the mistakes of his past and the pain he caused. When Makoto returns home, he is met by his sister, Haruka, who asks if he was with Shizuka. Even at home, his gloom and distrust are evident. Haruka remarks that he used to be happier before, but Makoto doesn't respond. His mother suggests they go out to celebrate his first day of high school, hoping a family dinner would cheer him up, but Makoto declines. He tells them to enjoy the evening without him and retreats to his room, assuring his mother that he'll be more cautious in the future. Once alone, he notices he has 2 new messages. Makoto writes light novels as a hobby, and one of the messages is from his editor, informing him that a publishing company is interested in his work. Despite the exciting opportunity, Makoto finds the idea stressful and pretends he never saw the message. That night, he lies awake, thinking about the email, and struggles to sleep. The next day at school, Makoto was exhausted. He notices the girl sitting next to him, Anri, who, like him, is also eating alone. Anri, too, has a poor reputation among their classmates. When another girl approaches and asks if she can eat with him, Makoto firmly refuses, remembering the pain from his experiences with Nanako and others. Instead, he turns to Anri and asks if he can read the book she is holding, initiating an exchange. Anri's isolation makes her one of the few people he feels he can trust. The rejected girl walks away, but Makoto reflects on the strangeness of the situation. This is the first time he has willingly reached out to someone. Even he is unsure why he felt drawn to Anri. Makoto and his sister Haruka walk home from school carrying groceries, but Makoto is preoccupied. He's still thinking about why he initiated a conversation with Anri earlier. As they walk, he spots Anri on the other side of the road, smiling at her phone. Haruka notices her too, labeling her a delinquent as Anri passes by with a squint, which leaves Makoto wondering about the meaning behind her expression. Once Anri is out of earshot, Haruka criticizes her for being a delinquent in this day and age. Makoto mutters something in response, but Haruka doesn't quite catch it. She then asks him why they drifted apart as siblings, confessing that she used to feel jealous when he chose to play with Shizuka instead of her. Haruka admits her past judgments about him were wrong, acknowledging that she unfairly believed the bad rumors. She tells him she wants things to return to how they used to be, but Makoto doesn't believe her sincerity, feeling unsettled by her claim that she was the only one who ever believed in him. Frustrated, he asks her to stop calling him older brother and insists that what's done is done. Excusing himself, he says the groceries need to be put away before they spoil, then walks home alone. Later, Makoto returns to his writing and receives a fan message from someone named Pamiko, a dedicated reader who has been sending him encouraging messages for some time. These messages are one of the few things that bring him genuine happiness. The next morning, on his way to school, Makoto sees Shizuka waiting at the front gate. He tries to ignore her and walks past, but she calls out to him, asking for a serious conversation. Momo, her friend, introduces herself and emphasizes Shizuka's sincerity. Shizuka asks Makoto for another chance, inviting him to a movie in an attempt to cheer him up. Momo, however, is less kind, making her disapproval of Makoto clear and assuming that all the bad rumors about him are true. Annoyed by the interaction, Makoto realizes that being polite is getting him nowhere and decides he needs to be blunt. Before he can say anything, Henry interrupts with a growl, telling them to move out of the way. Startled, Momo reminds Henry of their former friendship, but Henry simply looks unimpressed. Momo urges Henry to drop her delinquent act and suggests they could all go back to the way things used to be, repeating the phrase "I believed in you," a phrase Makoto deeply despises. Henry's frustration is clear, but Makoto steps in, asking her to stay calm. Turning to Shizuka and Momo, he asks if either of them has ever faced unfair rumors or betrayal from someone they trusted. All he wants now, he tells them, is to be left alone, as there's no way to change what's already happened. Shizuka runs away in tears, while Henry simply looks away. During class, Makoto notices Henry smiling as she reads a light novel on her phone. Suddenly, she starts typing quickly, prompting Makoto to check his phone, wondering if he's received another message from Pamiko. A moment later, a notification appears. It's indeed Pamiko, praising his latest chapter. Happy that she enjoyed it, he decides to save his response for after he finishes another chapter. Henry then glances at him, typing on her phone again before accidentally dropping it. When Makoto sees a sticker of a Pomeranian mascot on the back of her phone, everything clicks into place for him. Pamiko has been Henry all along. Makoto replays everything he saw in his mind but finds it hard to believe that Henry could actually be Pamiko. When she mentions his online pen name, though, he feels his heart race and his body start to sweat. Even so, the idea still feels too coincidental, and he convinces himself it couldn't be her. As soon as class ends, he plans to delete her message, yet the whole day goes by without him doing so. Simply holding his phone makes him feel sick. Finally, near the end of the day, homeroom begins, and he is relieved that he'll soon be heading home. He glances over at Henry, noticing her usual, distant aura. While he is curious about her, he decides it's best not to get involved. During homeroom, the teacher announces an upcoming school trip, advising everyone to quickly form groups with friends. As soon as the bell rings, Makoto gets up to leave, but Henry approaches him, trying to talk. He leaves before she can say much, frustrating her to the point where she kicks her desk, exasperated, and storms out. Saito, watching the scene, asks Makoto if he is friends with Henry. Saito, who underwent a dramatic transformation when they started high school, is still the same girl he remembers from a library encounter. Like Shizuka, Saito tries to pull Makoto out of his isolated shell. She even suggests that their time in the library was meaningful to her, saying he might have been her first love. Saito reminds him that Haruka, Nanako, and Kisaragi are also attending their school, though Makoto has committed to erasing these people from his memory. Saito, however, insists on rekindling their friendship, ignoring his dismissals. She says she's learned from romance games that mistakes can be fixed with enough effort. Trying to charm him, she even puts on her old glasses, but Makoto stays firm. He refuses to let himself be drawn back into those memories, feeling only emptiness. As he gets a notification on his phone, Saito thinks he might be about to take her picture, but he instead checks a message from Pamiko. She's excited to read his next chapter, and he ignores Saito to head home, deep in thought about Pamiko, or rather, Henry. He realizes he would feel like the betrayer if he stopped writing, knowing she eagerly waits for his next installment. Though unsure if he'll ever finish the story, he commits to completing the next chapter. When he arrives home, his mother invites him on a shopping trip with Haruka. He insists he has plans to meet a friend, but his mother, frustrated, tells him to stop holding on to the past. This remark hits a nerve. She had often gone on outings with Haruka without him, even missing his middle school graduation. He knows he can't change his troubled past, nor can he expect his mother to change anytime soon. Resigned, he repeats his excuse about meeting a friend and leaves. Haruka, catching on, asks if he could stop meeting with this invisible friend and come along with them instead. He brushes her off, knowing they'll head to the new mall, and decides to visit an older shopping mall where he can be alone. In the quiet food court, he finally feels at peace. But by some odd coincidence, Henry is there too. He spends a few moments watching her as she reacts to a web novel on her phone, completely engrossed. Eventually, she stops reading and starts typing, and when he checks his phone, he sees Henry's novel is getting published even though she hasn't updated it in a year. Just then, he receives another message from her, praising his latest chapter. Gathering his courage, Makoto buys 2 orange juices and approaches her. Initially, she thinks he's just another guy hitting on her, and is shocked to realize it's him. Henry sits with Makoto and tries to ask if they can be friends, but Makoto interrupts before she can finish. He bluntly tells her that he doesn't feel like being friends with her either. Annoyed by his response, Henry snaps back, stating that while she has a few bad rumors circulating about her, they're not as damaging as the ones about him. This surprises Makoto, who realizes his reputation might be even worse than he thought. Tired of the exchange, Henry tells him not to bother her anymore. Several rumors surround Henry, painting her as a delinquent. Stories about her range from dating older men to extorting and hitting her classmates, sneaking out at night, and overall being troublesome. But these, after all, are just rumors. Trying to break the tension, Makoto offers her some orange juice, but Henry snatches it out of his hand, making it clear she still wants him to leave her alone. Makoto grabs her arm to stop her from throwing the drink, but it only leads to the juice spilling on his clothes. Though Henry apologizes, she's quick to remind him that he was rude first, making him equally at fault for the mess. Henry's frustration with Makoto's conflicting behavior grows, and she directly asks him what he truly wants. After some thought, Makoto admits that he avoids friendships out of fear of being betrayed. Henry confesses that she feels the same way, which is why she doesn't want to be friends with him either. Changing the topic, he asks her why she suddenly stopped writing, which flusters her. She questions how he figured it out, but instead of answering, he playfully criticizes her for killing off so many characters in her stories. Henry lets it slide, mainly because she likes the main heroine's character design. They share a rare laugh, and Makoto asks if he can read her work, to which Henry hesitantly agrees, warning him not to judge her early stories too harshly. Makoto reads her older work and finds it amusing, especially since most of it is in the romance genre. Despite their rocky start, the two bond over their shared love for light novels. When evening arrives, Henry's stomach grumbles, revealing that she hadn't eaten lunch. Makoto realizes he hasn't had such a long conversation, especially with a girl, in a long time. He asks why she doesn't want to go home, and she reveals that she doesn't get along well with her family. Just then, Henry's older sister, Siko, arrives to pick her up. Siko notices Makoto and asks if the two are friends, but both deny it. Siko, however, is pleased to see Henry with someone her own age and introduces herself to Makoto, even jokingly comparing him to a character, Tetsuru, from a light novel she knows Henry likes. As Henry gets up to leave, she accidentally calls Makoto by his online alias, Nianta, which Siko instantly recognizes as the popular web novelist's handle. Henry tries to brush it off, but her secret is clearly out. Siko, who is actually Makoto's editor, questions him about why he hasn't been responding to her messages, mentioning that she had been eagerly awaiting a response regarding the serialization of his work. When Siko comments that Henry should have mentioned knowing Makoto, Henry insists again that they aren't friends. Siko and Henry leave together, with Siko promising to discuss the serialization with Makoto another time. Siko feels this meeting might be destiny, but Henry remains visibly annoyed, walking ahead. As they part ways, Makoto reflects on how different the two sisters are. Siko's warm, friendly nature contrasts sharply with Henry's rough exterior. Despite the unusual day, Makoto decides to set the thoughts aside for now. Henry never imagines that her own sister would turn out to be Makoto's editor. Makoto, meanwhile, feels quietly relieved that Henry doesn't seem to be using her sister's position to publish her own work. Almost as if reading his thoughts, Henry reassures him, explaining that her work is actually published by a different company than her sister's. Henry has read many of Makoto's stories herself and believes they're more than good enough to be serialized. Though she feels a little embarrassed saying it, she genuinely means it. Siko lightheartedly nudges Makoto, pointing out that he and Henry are already good friends. However, Makoto doesn't see it that way. He only knows that she makes his heart skip a beat. Meanwhile, Shizuka and Saito happen to be nearby. When Makoto spots them, he quickly tries to turn and walk away, but they chase after him, eager to apologize. Makoto doesn't want to hear their apologies, knowing that a simple sorry won't erase their past actions. At that moment, Henry gently places a hand on his shoulder, diverting the conversation to a random topic. Makoto laughs, appreciating her attempt to ease the tension, and instinctively links arms with her. Siko playfully tries to join in, but when Makoto pulls his arm back, she pouts and instead grabs Henry's hand. Henry keeps insisting that she and Makoto aren't actually friends, which suits Makoto just fine since he feels the same. Yet, he can't help but feel grateful, as this brief distraction helps him momentarily forget the memories of his past. From a window, Haruka observes her older brother with Henry and Siko, finally understanding that he wasn't lying about having friends. Makoto and Henry continue to exchange messages through the web novel platform, each day growing slightly closer. However, their relationship remains limited to that of a reader and a writer, bound by the novels they share. The day arrives for forming groups for the upcoming class trip. While everyone scrambles to find their friends, Makoto knows that he and likely Henry too will be left out. Their classmates continue to gossip and judge them no matter what they do. Frustrated and tired of the situation, Henry suddenly stands up, marches to the blackboard, takes the chalk from the class representative, and writes her and Makoto's names together. She firmly declares that they're a group now, just the two of them, and is sure no one will mind since they're the class loners anyway. The teacher raises no objections, and Henry returns to her seat, casually telling Makoto not to get any ideas. They're not friends, she just wants to get through the trip quickly. Makoto rolls his eyes, unaffected by her attitude. However, without needing to say it, the two have undeniably grown closer. They may not be friends in the usual sense, but they've become something unique, like Nianta and Pamiko. Makoto asks Henry why they ended up in the same group, and she explains that it's better than being placed in groups where they might be disliked. He concedes she has a point. She advises him to be more direct and straightforward, but he changes the subject, saying he'd rather not discuss school. Instead, Henry asks about the progress of his story's next chapter, and whether he has thought about publishing it. He responds that all he has left is proofreading before uploading the chapter, but he's unsure about pursuing publication. While he's honored that management considers his work good enough for print, he still views it as a hobby. He also worries that, given his age, it could create trouble for his parents. Henry notices his quietness and assures him there's no need to rush. His meeting with Siko, who is highly dedicated to her work, is set for tomorrow. She notes that Siko is so serious about her job that she has never had a boyfriend, which surprises Makoto. Henry appears fond of her sister, though she downplays it by saying it's only natural since they're family. She tells Makoto to stop looking so gloomy and proposes a challenge, a light novel battle. The theme is their upcoming field trip, and each of them must write a 500-word story, with Siko as the judge. Henry finishes first and proudly claims to be the faster writer. Makoto, however, reminds her that speed doesn't necessarily reflect quality. When they exchange phones to read each other's work, Makoto becomes emotional. Henry smugly asks if her story moved him, and he agrees with a smile. The next morning, Makoto skips breakfast as usual and heads to school. He pauses at the door, reflecting on his mother's harsh words from his childhood that have lingered over the years. He doubts she would react positively to his work being published, and decides to keep it to himself for now. Before he leaves, his sister Haruka wishes him a safe trip. At school, the teacher calls Makoto and Henry to the staff office. Although they claim not to be friends, she brushes this off, explaining she's not here to lecture them about causing trouble. Instead, she offers a listening ear and notes that true friendship doesn't require large numbers sometimes. Even one trustworthy friend is enough. Makoto and Henry know too well that betrayal is always a risk. The teacher implies that she, too, has faced betrayal but encourages them to find someone they don't mind forgiving once or twice. Neither fully understands her message, but they glance at each other thoughtfully. With her guidance complete, the teacher dismisses them back to class. On the way, Henry wonders aloud about the purpose of the conversation, though Makoto doesn't quite understand it either. Before they can discuss further, a girl calls out to Makoto. She tells him she's always wanted to talk to him, but he doesn't recognize her immediately and suspects it might be a prank. She soon reveals herself as Kisaragi, a girl who once made a fake confession to him. Though she now sports shorter hair, he remembers her. Aware that Henry is waiting, he tries to end the conversation quickly, having no desire for a reunion. Kisaragi, however, asks him to hear her out. She confesses that she was pressured into making that fake confession, fearing her friend's rejection if she didn't go along. She insists she genuinely likes him and wishes to start over. Makoto, usually quick to cut conversations short, finds himself asking her questions. Uncomfortable with the discussion taking place in front of Henry, he tries to deflect, but Kisaragi invites him on a date that weekend. He gives her the same answer as he has others in the past: it's too late. In frustration, Kisaragi begins to cry and reaches out to him, but Henry steps in, stating that Makoto is busy with field trip planning. Kisaragi snaps back, telling her to stay out of the way, but Henry calmly points out that she was the one who interrupted them. Taking his hand, Henry pulls him away. Makoto glances back to see Kisaragi's angry expression, unaware of how red Henry's ears have turned. She lightly reminds him he'll be late for his meeting with Siko if he continues to waste time. Noticing him staring at his hand, she jokingly offers to hold it again, but he responds that it would only make her blush more, which she answers with a playful fist, daring him to repeat himself. During Shizuka's middle school graduation, she approaches Makoto to talk, but he responds with an overly polite tone and quickly excuses himself. Confused by his formal attitude, Shizuka decides to wait until high school, where she'll see him again, to try talking to him once more. In the present, Shizuka recounts her encounter with Makoto and Henry to Saito and Haruka. Saito acknowledges that Henry is attractive and envies her smooth skin. The three girls speculate about what kind of person Henry might be, particularly since she has a few bad rumors surrounding her. All that Saito knows is that Henry has a reputation as a delinquent, though she often seems alone in the classroom. At the very least, they know Henry and Makoto are friends. Haruka remembers that Kisaragi has also been looking for Makoto, though initially, she didn't take her search seriously. Shizuka adds to the conversation with a rumor that Kisaragi and Makoto were once close friends. Haruka comments that Kisaragi is unexpectedly popular with boys, despite her quiet and modest demeanor. She also briefly mentions another girl, Nanako, though she considers both Nanako and Kisaragi irrelevant to their current discussion. Haruka then shares a detail from that morning, proudly noting that Makoto was kinder than usual and even accepted her offer of machi. Shizuka and Saito seem puzzled, so Haruka explains that Makoto isn't as cold or guarded as he once was, speculating that this change might have something to do with Henry. However, the conversation soon turns somber as the girls acknowledge their feelings for Makoto, along with the mistakes they made in the past. Shizuka thinks about what really happened that day with Makoto. While preoccupied with her own injury, Shizuka failed to notice that Makoto was being unfairly labeled as the troublemaker. Though she wanted to clarify that the situation was an accident, the tense atmosphere left her too frightened to speak up. She feared that her attempt to defend him would only lead to her being blamed as well. For a child, these early experiences can shape their entire character, and being unjustly cast out left a lasting impact on Makoto. Shizuka worried that he would remain isolated and distant throughout middle school, and she felt it was her responsibility to clear his name. Yet, fearing judgment for not defending him sooner, she stayed silent, choosing the safer path. She had hoped to make things right once they reached high school, but she realizes now that life is rarely so forgiving. Haruka, deeply affected, confesses that she had known about the incident and about how Makoto's classmates treated him. When she shared the story with her friends, they painted Makoto as a violent child who only behaved well at home. They even suggested that because Makoto was not her mother's biological son, he would grow up alone. That evening, shaken by her friends' comments, Haruka came home and told her mother that Makoto had hit a girl, unknowingly accelerating the collapse of Makoto's social life. Makoto had spent much of his time with Shizuka, leaving Haruka feeling overlooked. She had hoped that by causing him a bit of trouble and then showing him kindness afterward, he might start paying more attention to her. However, this plan backfired, and by the time Haruka realized her mistake, her relationship with Makoto was strained. He only responded to her with empty, distant words, and she regretted not treating him more kindly from the start. Saito also reflects on her own missteps. There was once a rumor that Makoto had attacked her. She initially believed it, though she had always felt deep down that Makoto wouldn't do such a thing. On the day of their middle school graduation, however, she learned from an anonymous source that he had only acted to protect her from items falling off the shelves due to an earthquake. Saito remembers the earthquake clearly, but at the time, all she saw was Makoto abruptly jumping toward her. The rumors that he had assaulted her spread quickly, but rather than confront Makoto, she let them linger. As people began to pay attention to her, calling her cute and admiring her, Saito felt a new kind of happiness. Being a quiet, gloomy girl, she'd never received this much attention before, and she enjoyed it so much that she forgot to ask Makoto for his side of the story. Because of this incident, she gained popularity and started dressing more stylishly. School life brightened, and she allowed herself to move past the event. Haruka even remembers that Saito had so many admirers that some even confessed their feelings for her, but Saito rejected them all. In her eyes, no one could ever compare to Makoto. Later, when someone told her the truth about what happened in the library, memories of her joyful times with Makoto came rushing back, and she realized she had cared for him all along. At graduation, she tried to speak to him, but he wouldn't look back. She attempted to make amends in high school, but by then, it was too late. Now, all three girls regret their past actions and try to think of a way to earn Makoto's forgiveness. They know, however, that any apology at this point would be meaningless to him. Makoto doesn't want to hear it. Shizuka suggests that instead of apologizing directly, they should work to help Makoto regain his old self. Haruka agrees, believing that speaking to him face-to-face would only make things worse. They realize their best option is to support Anri, the girl who has managed to reach Makoto's heart. Although they feel hesitant, they agree this is the only way they can make a difference in his life from a distance. The three girls decide that their first step will be to stop Kasaragi and Nanako from interfering on the upcoming field trip. Despite the bittersweet reasons that brought them together, they are glad to have shared their regrets and found a shared goal.
Following this, we get a look inside the feelings of Makoto. He thinks about how earlier today, Haruka, his stepsister, gave him kuzumoshi. Back when they were kids, Makoto always pretended to like kuzumoshi because Haruka hated it and ate hers to make it so she doesn't need to. But he wonders why she remembers what he likes. He remembers that back in the days, when she used to call him elder brother, he had an urge to protect her no matter what. Now, he doesn't feel like that anymore. Same with Shizuka, who has been acting like how she used to in the past. She used to be his friend back in the days. She would follow him around everywhere he went. Recently, she started behaving like that again, but he feels nothing. Saito as well has been looking very sad when he ignores her. She is still very kind to him, and seems to have put those rumors behind her. He used to enjoy reading books with her in the past, but now he feels nothing about her. It's not that he holds any sort of grudge against them, nor does he like them. He simply doesn't think about them anymore. Maybe he has fallen ill to the society's cruelty, but he can no longer trust anyone. In other words, he is broken. The scene shifts to Siko's office, where they've arranged a call with Makoto's father for him to talk about the publication of his novel. Even though it was arranged beforehand, Makoto didn't think his father would give his time to him. So they start talking about the matter. Makoto was very formal and informed his father about how his novel had done good, and now he is being offered to publish it as a book. He mustered up courage to open up to his father about his ambitions. His father was rather cool about it. He said that he will be going with Makoto for the contractual talks, as scammers are everywhere. Besides, Makoto is not an adult, so he needs a guardian. Makoto thanks his father for it, to which his father told him not to be so overly polite. Makoto's father then tells him to continue on doing what he wants and that Makoto is his pride and joy. This deeply touched Makoto. Following on, Siko once again asked if he is ready for official talks. She was really eager to publish his story, so she asked if she can put his story into a book. Enri was also anxious about what decision Makoto would take. She states that if Makoto's story were to get published, it would only push her harder to do well for herself. Taking everything into consideration, Makoto makes a decision. He cites that even though it might cause his family issues later, he wants to be selfish. He emphatically tells Siko to publish his story, the heat of the moment getting him emotional and making him cry in the process. He was really thankful to them. Enri moved in behind him to pat him on the back and give him the support he needs. Siko follows suit. Makoto really appreciated it, as he thought that it was only because he met Enri that he got the courage to do something for himself. Even Makoto's father, who was connected through a video call, was shocked to see his son display emotions. Later, they all part way on their way back home, and Makoto eventually arrives home to his mother. As he arrives, his stepmother asks him why he didn't tell her about the book. Makoto understands that his father probably told her, and apologized for not telling her earlier. His stepmother was fine with it, but she wondered if the publishing company is a safe one. Makoto assured her that he won't be causing her any issues with this. He further adds that he really wants to do this and will do anything she wants him to do in return. He will go to a good university, get a nice job, etc., but he just wants his book published. His mother, understanding the matter, said she was just concerned and nothing more. She offers to take him out, alongside Haruka, for the three to have a meal and celebrate. However, Makoto declines. She is saddened by this, as she wanted to know more about it from him. She was not over the fact that he decided to discuss this with his father and not her. This is when Makoto explains his side, saying he didn't think she would get his aspirations, because she doesn't trust him. So, he was afraid that discussing the matter with her would harm his aspirations. He just doesn't think there's a chance for her to get his aspirations. His mother tries to speak up, but Makoto continues on. He adds that even during grade and middle school, his stepmother didn't believe him. She didn't even bother to listen to his side of the story. His mother says that she did believe him, it's just that she thought that she was teaching him wrong. However, Makoto is sure that she didn't believe him, because things didn't go as she wanted it to. He has become like this because no one ever trusted him. His stepmother breaks down from his monologue. Makoto apologizes and adds that he would rather leave than cause her pain. His mother cries and apologizes to him for what happened in the past. Makoto didn't seem to care. Just then, Haruka came in. She was crying and told Makoto to stop. She didn't want him to leave and be separated from her. However, she strengthens her resolve and says that if living without them makes Makoto feel better, then he should go for it. Their mother is too fussy about things anyway, so maybe living alone will help him. She also mentions that their grandfather's place is free now and tells him to ask their father for permission. Their mother doesn't want this, as Makoto is the son she is proud of. However, Haruka goes up to her and makes her understand that Makoto no longer trusts them because of how they treated him. But time can heal all wounds, so they need to give him time. So, she tells Makoto to leave their mother in her care. She, referring to Makoto by his name, tells him to leave peacefully without them bothering him. Seeing such a sad expression and tears on her face makes Makoto wonder when was the last time she was like this. He goes ahead and pats Haruka on the head, stating that he doesn't understand this himself, but thanks her. Haruka, still crying, tried to force a smile, as she wanted to send Makoto off with a smile. Makoto meanwhile wondered what kind of face he was making himself, probably a scary one. Following that, the scene changes to Makoto running into Enri on his way to school. Enri tells Makoto that he looks tired than usual. Makoto replies by telling her that a lot had gone down recently, which explains his tiredness. She then lets him know that she will be going ahead. Makoto tells her to stop, saying he wants to come along. Enri refuses to let him come with her, as she doesn't have a good reputation. So, Makoto's own reputation would get worse if he hangs out with her. Makoto understands that Enri is just as considerate as her sister Siko. However, he makes it clear that he just feels like going with her. This makes Enri blush. She eventually agrees to let him come with her, while Makoto questioned why she was wearing glasses. Following this, we see a flashback where Makoto's stepmother hands over the keys to his grandfather's house to Makoto. She also gives him all the money he had saved. She mentions how she isn't ready for this moment, but she realizes that she troubled Makoto a lot. She plans on talking to his dad, in hopes of one day being able to reunite and face Makoto properly. Until then, she hopes Makoto eats well, sleeps well, cleans his room, and spends his money wisely. There's not much to worry about that, as Makoto is very good at these things. As Makoto gets ready to leave, his stepmother tells him that if he ever gets into a problem and needs help, he can return to her. She will try her best to help him. And just like that, Makoto has suddenly started living alone without any preparations. Enri learns of this, and she thinks Makoto is quite lucky to be living alone. She adds that despite him mentioning that he went in there without preparation, the house is at least furnished? Makoto says yes, so Enri adds that he only needs to buy some clothes and furniture to fit, and for that, she'll tag along with him. That being said, Makoto does state that he never thought things would be this way. Enri consoles him, saying that even his mother needs time to reflect on herself. Not to mention, once the writing pressure calms down, he'll be able to enjoy himself. Just then, something occurs to Enri, and she stops talking. Makoto asks what is bothering her. Enri replies by asking if Makoto living alone means he wouldn't come to the food court. Makoto realizes that the reason why he was at the food court so often was so that he could avoid going home. Without that issue, the food court is a place where guys line up to hit on girls, so it isn't exactly the best place to be in. So, he instead invites Enri to come over to his place for their writing session. Enri is taken aback by his proposal. Makoto thinks that he will still go to the food court because his memories of talking to Enri there is vital to him. Enri, on the other hand, was blushing profusely and panicking over going to his house. She hastily clarifies that she didn't ask about it because she'll become lonely without him or something. She also agrees that the food court sucks as a place for writing and a calmer place would be better. Makoto also thinks about how he doesn't want to leave Anri alone. Anri continues, asking if he's sure about having her over, as she can be bothersome. They're not even friends after all. Makoto says he knows that, but she can still come over to his place to write. After that, they reach school. Inside the classroom, Makoto mentions how he feels a bit awkward here to Anri. She also has the same feelings as everyone is looking at them. Makoto lets her know that people are paying attention to them because of Anri's goofy glasses. Anri doesn't agree at all. Instead, she thinks it's because Makoto isn't being a weirdo as usual. They look around to see people looking at them and chatting about it. Anri says that they can't read the light novel here because of all the eyes on them and such. Right then, Shizuka comes over and asks Makoto if he has changed his hairstyle. Makoto says he doesn't and asks why. Shizuka mentions that he has been behaving more casually as of late. She mentions how she has seen him and Anri get along well and talk nicely. They really fit each other. It makes her feel good for not confessing to him. She is stopped in the last part by Siko, who puts her in a choke. Saito tells her to shut up and don't interfere in their conversation. Shizuka thinks it's fine and she's happy that Makoto is fixing his scarred heart. Saito tells her to shut up again and let them talk about their writing. Embarrassed, Anri confronts Shizuka, asking just what makes her think that Anri and Makoto are a couple. She also threatens to punch Shizuka in the face to bring her back to her senses. Shizuka goes over to her and pats Anri's head as she says that Anri doesn't look intimidating in her glasses. Besides, she also mentions that she is aware of Makoto inviting her to his house alone, so she knows what's up. Saito apologizes on Shizuka's behalf and tells them to continue their writing as she drags Shizuka with her. A sense of awkwardness fills the air between Makoto and Anri. Anri breaks the ice by mentioning that she's no longer in the mood for light novels. Instead, she says they should go to shop for the things Makoto needs in his new place. Makoto mentions that he needs to buy a cup. Anri gets it. After all, Makoto drinks a lot of coffee. Makoto corrects her by letting her know that he wants to buy a cup for her. This makes Anri flustered, as she mentions that while she feels honored, it's not exactly needed. Seeing her like this makes Makoto smile. After school ends, they go to the mall and complete the shopping. After they're done, Anri is surprised by how quickly they've gotten it done, and asks if they're missing anything. Makoto once again asks Anri if she's sure about not getting a cup. Anri tells him there's no need for that, as she's sure that there must be cups at his grandfather's place. Not to mention the fact that she'll be only there for their writing session, so such special behavior is unnecessary. Makoto says that it makes sense because they're not even friends. This coming from Makoto seemingly stings Anri a bit. Following this, Makoto tells Anri to wait for a bit as he needed to go to the toilet. Anri waits, but despite time passing, he doesn't come back. Anri decides to settle down and read his light novel in the downtime, until he is away. She starts reading and hopes for him to come back soon. But just then, Anri's old friends, or rather, her tormentors, spot her and come over. They mention how it has been ages, and asks Anri if she still writes cringy stories. They ask for her phone, as Momo would, to see what she wrote. They make jokes about Anri's appearance and also talk about calling Momo to that place so they can bully her properly. Anri is frightened by them. Makoto suddenly comes back and saves Anri. He tells her that she doesn't need to be so shy of their stuff, and tells her to come home with him. Anri obliges. Meanwhile, the bully girls are taken aback by the fact that Anri was with a handsome guy. They are jealous of her. As they're about to leave, one of the girls speaks up and says that she's one of Anri's friend. She also asks if he has heard of the bad rumors about Anri. They call Anri a bad girl who is just playing with him. They tell him to leave her and join them for karaoke instead. Makoto looks back and gives them a pissed-off look, which shocks them. However, they continue on by calling Anri a weirdo who writes weird novels, and tells him that it's better to join them. Makoto finally replies, telling them to stay away from Anri. He says that he will never forgive them if they hurt his precious friend again. He then proceeds to hold Anri's hand and takes her away with him. Touched by his behavior, Anri can't help but tear up. Makoto says tough girls like her shouldn't cry. He's saying that despite crying a lot himself. Anri tells him that he isn't crying in fake anger. However, deep down, her heart was a mess. To cheer her up, Makoto gives her a cup which he had bought for her. The cup having a logo of her favorite character. He mentions that he saw her eyes stuck on this particular design when they were shopping. However, he clarifies that he didn't stare at her all time, so there's nothing to be mad about. Emotional, Anri smiles while crying, to which Makoto tells her to make her mind and do one at a time. Anri, on the other hand, finally realized what her teacher meant by meeting someone who you can trust fully. She can trust Makoto, and he can betray her and she still wouldn't care. She thinks of how Makoto defended her, and told him that he made a funny face back then too, ending their mall visit on a wholesome note. The scene changes to the two of them now at Makoto's new house, working on their novels. After a while, Makoto suggests they take a break and have some coffee. He goes over to make some coffee. As he is doing so, he asks Henri about Siko and how he hasn't heard from her in a while. He wonders if the publication is going well. Henri mentions that's how it works in the publication industry. They need to figure out and refine a lot of things and find artists to draw the illustrations too, so it'll take time. She also mentions that he will soon be busy with revision work, so he should probably update his other works now. Makoto brings over the coffee, and on that topic asks Henri for her opinions on his romance story. Henri, appalled, asks if he can even call that a romance. It's about breaking into dances and action scenes every few scenes. Makoto takes the criticism, as Henri writes good romance herself. He does add that he hasn't had a girlfriend, hence his romance experience is non-existent. Taken aback, Henri also mentions that she hasn't fallen in love yet, and that she only writes her delusions. Makoto couldn't believe it, as he thought she was writing based on real experiences she had, making Henri blush in the process. Following this, Henri asks if he has been preparing for the trip. Makoto asks if he needs to do that, to which Henri says that does need to do it. He needs to prepare the right clothes and right shoes to fit in perfectly. He also needs to map out the location to get the perfect route so he can enjoy the rides he wants to. She also mentions that they've added new flavors of popcorn to their wagon, and notes it down. Makoto says Henri is enjoying herself a lot. Henri, serious, yells at Makoto and tells him to get serious about the trip, because if he doesn't get serious, he won't be able to enjoy Destinyland to its fullest. He should be glad that Henri is on the same team as him so she can help him out with these things. Makoto then tells Henri that they'll enjoy this trip a lot, something that Henri is positive about herself. The next day at school, Henri is still going on about how she is looking forward to the trip. Makoto is pleasantly surprised by this, as he didn't see the side of Henri previously. Shizuka, Haruka and Saito were having a discussion on the other side. Makoto looks at them and Shizuka's eyes meet his for a second before they both turn away. Henri noticed this and she was kind of jealous. She tauntingly adds that she isn't as beautiful as Makoto's childhood friend. Makoto immediately shuts it down by saying he doesn't think so. Following this, Makoto tells Henri that he wants her to check out his new romance novel. Henri agrees, but she thinks the genre is a misfit for someone like him. Makoto jokingly retorts saying he is nowhere as good as Henri. Henri is flustered by this and she yells at Makoto, stating she isn't a romantic expert, drawing eyes from other students. After that, Makoto tells her to read it later at his place. Later at his place, Henri reads the novel and suggests he doesn't post the story under his Nianta name. Romance isn't his forte, fantasy is, so she thinks he should do what he is best. But for a feedback, she thought it was okay and relatable. However, it does embarrass her for whatever reason. Makoto agrees, saying it was embarrassing to write but fun as well. He is just glad that Henri can relate to it. Following this, Makoto realizes that the story he wrote is about a hero and a heroine who are betrayed by society and find solace in one another. Basically, he wrote his and Henri's story by mistake. He realizes this and immediately wants to shelve the story. However, Henri thinks he doesn't need to throw it away. She tells him that she finds it interesting and that he can release it as a breather. Makoto agrees but decides to carefully craft the story. The time passes by, and Henri soon notices that she needs to go home before it is too late. She also remembers that they don't have dinner prepared, so she needs to go to the convenience store on her way back. Makoto musters up courage and suggests they have dinner together, but he also understands that Siko will be worried. Henri says that won't be an issue, as Siko wants her to get the writing done here. However, she doesn't want to bother him. Makoto assured her that it will be fine and that it can be an Eve party for tomorrow's trip. Henri agrees but wants to help with the cooking. By the time they're in the kitchen, Henri messes up the vegetables by chopping them wrong. Makoto understands she can't cook and will probably hurt herself, so he tells her to clean the table. She goes to do that and Makoto prepares the dinner in the meantime. What follows is a good dinner for them, as Henri really enjoys the food Makoto made. Following this, Henri washes the dishes. As Makoto apologizes for making her do so, Henri tells him it is fine, and that he should instead focus on the trip tomorrow. She wants him to, at the very least, remember the map so they can navigate around the place nicely. She couldn't be any more excited for it, as she thinks about all the rides and characters she wants. She's excited to the point that she believes she won't be able to sleep. Makoto tells her to sleep well if she wants to enjoy day. He also wonders if having fun like this is what means being friends with someone nice. The next day, Makoto thinks about how during the middle school trip, he was ignored. No one talked to him and it was no fun. He was even ignored during the recreational activities on the bus. Furthermore, his seat mate used a portable seat to sit somewhere else. Fast forward to now, he wonders if it'll be different. He arrives at Henri's place and sees Henri talking with her mother. Henri's mother is happy, while Henri was trying to play it cool. When she turned around, Henri noticed Makoto was there and got startled. He apologized for coming too soon. Henry's mother noticed Makoto and smiled at him. Henry was embarrassed by her mother's antics. Makoto greeted her and introduced himself as Henry's friend. Henry's mother nicely greeted back and said that Henry and Siko talk about him a lot. Flustered, Henry tells her to get inside, and off they went towards the station. As they were heading there, Makoto noticed that Henry was wearing a beautiful dress and brought it up. Henry said she wore it to dress up for the occasion. Blushing, Makoto softly whispered that it suits her perfectly and that she looks very cute in it. Henry is totally overwhelmed by this and blushes herself. She tries to play cool again, pointing out how it was Makoto's first time praising her. Makoto thinks that doesn't count as he was talking to himself. As their banter ends, they get ready and off they go to the school trip.
Following this, they get on the train, and after a while, they arrive at Kaihama Station. Henry expresses her shock on how quickly they managed to get there. Makoto says that time really flies by when they are together and talking about light novels. Afterwards, they get off the train and think about what to do next. They are supposed to go meet up in the underground alley with the rest of the group, but because they have arrived earlier, they have some time to waste. So, Henry suggests that they hang out a bit and check out the nearby shops. Makoto mentions that the majority of the shops are closed, but they decide to tag along anyway. Just then, the two of them run into their teacher. The teacher is pleasantly surprised to see them around, and asks if the two of them are getting along well. This is when Makoto tells her that they have actually become good friends. The teacher is glad to know that, and takes her leave shortly after. After she leaves, Henry tells Makoto that she never would have thought that she would have become friends with someone as gloomy as Makoto. Meanwhile, Makoto also claps back at her, by saying that he didn't see himself getting along with a Yankee either. Henry says that Makoto also has a fake and condescending smile on his face at all times. Makoto explains that it is because he cannot trust anyone to be real with them. Henry hesitantly asks if he feels the same now as well. However, she quickly realizes that the question was inappropriate and tries to ignore it. However, Makoto goes ahead and answers the question, saying that even now, he cannot trust anyone unconditionally. That being said, he cannot betray his friends at all, so he is fine with trusting someone like Henry. This surprises Henry, and she also goes on ahead and says that she is also fine with trusting Makoto, because the two of them are similar in the sense that they do not have a lot of confidence. However, Henry quickly noticed the situation was getting more and more embarrassing. So, she decided to change the topic by mentioning how there was a mucky shop over there, so she wanted to go there. Makoto asks her why she is obsessed with the mouse thing, but Henry makes it clear that it is not just a mouse. It is Mucky, the mascot of Destiny, and it is a chinchilla. Makoto then asks just how many of these exist, and how many costumes do they have for it. Henry tells him that there is only one Mucky, and that is the real one. Makoto hears this, and states Mucky is quite the special one. Henry is glad that he understands her. Following this, Henry says that she will definitely be getting a picture with Mucky. Suddenly, something hits Henry, and she hesitantly asks Makoto to take a picture with her now that they have come here together. Makoto agrees, and so they get ready to take a picture in front of the Mucky window of the shop. Henry ponders about how memories are always stored in one's heart, so having this picture will help them refresh that memory when they see it. Makoto asks whose camera will they be using to take the picture? He suggests they use his phone, and he can send that photo to Henry later. Henry is flustered to know that he also wants the photo, and says that they will be taking a photo with both of their phones. Henry then takes out her phone and turns on the selfie camera. They get ready to take the picture, but because there is distance between the two, they do not fit in the same frame. So, Henry asks Makoto to move closer. He moves in a bit, but she wants him even closer. Makoto moves in a bit again, but it is still not enough, so Henry grabs him by the shoulder and pulls him closer to her. Makoto is a bit awkward about this, as he mentions that this is the first time he is doing something like this. Henry says that it is the same for her too. She then gets ready to put on the timer, but Makoto was making a tense face, so she tells him to fix it. After a bit, Henry turns on the timer, and they take the selfie. After seeing the pic, Henry laughs out as they both look very tense in the photo. She also mentions how this is their first photo together. A page in the book of their memories. Excited for more, Henry suggests they fill up that book with tons of pictures today, to which Makoto tells her to take good care of him. Following this, the two of them go to where the rest of the students were. However, Henry looked like she was not feeling it there. Makoto notices this and asks her what was wrong with her, and if it had anything to do with the chapter he posted earlier today being a bit boring. Henry tells him it is not about that. She then goes on to reveal that the surroundings are not really her cup of tea. Makoto tries to cheer her up by saying that they will be having a lot of fun today. This brings a smile to Henry's face, as she agrees with his optimism. Later, Henry goes on to say that she doesn't like the fact that she is around here with so many students. It makes her uncomfortable. Makoto thinks about it, and agrees that the situation is a bit uncomfortable, but he notes that the teacher is not around. So he suggests that they read light novel chapters to spend some time. As he starts reading, he asks Anri if she is aware of the author called Paguko. Anri is a bit confused, and just then, they are called by the teacher, as she was going to start the roll call. The teacher did the roll call and informed all the students that they are here of an event. They will be staying here until 4 p.m. After which, they will be alerted and they will have to come back and gather at their initial meetup spot. They will be allowed to go to Destiny Land and then eventually go back home. After making things clear, the teacher tells the students that they are free to go. Anri is super excited and immediately asks Makoto to join her, as the entrance to Destiny Land was open for them. She was so excited that she started running hastily, which worried Makoto. But she controlled herself and stopped in tracks before falling, and told Makoto that she will be fine, so there is no need to worry. She is just happy to be in Destiny Land, and wants to have a lot of fun. Makoto tells her that they need to get tickets first. She gets out her phone to check her to-do list, but sees that one of her other favorite characters, Taki, was there. She was tempted to go and take a picture with the mascot, but she also realizes that they should get the tickets first. Makoto also says that they should go according to their plan, but he also feels that it is important to do what they want and enjoy themselves. So, they decide to go over to the Taki mascot and take a selfie together with it. After that, they go and take rides there. Makoto was a bit taken aback by his experience on the roller coaster, but Anri loved it a lot. They also had food together, but most importantly, Anri was enjoying it a lot. Eventually, they go to a store, where Anri sees that they were selling Taki headpieces. She wanted Makoto to put them on, but Makoto thought it was too embarrassing. But Anri reassured him that everyone was doing it. Makoto ended up putting it on once, and Anri thought it looked very cool. Makoto regretted it though, as he never would have put this on if it weren't for her insisting. Anri tells him it is fine, and that he can take it off if he wants to. She also shows him that her headpiece also has ears. Hers are bunny ears, and it makes Makoto blush. Conscious, Anri asks Makoto how it looks on her. Makoto was practically red by this point, so he turned around to hide it, and told Anri that it looked great on her. Anri didn't believe it, as he didn't look at her. As the two keep bantering, Anri notices a lonely girl crying. Makoto asked what she was looking at, to which Anri said it was nothing. However, she could not handle seeing the isolated girl, and went up to her with Makoto. She asks the kid if she is lost. The kid, crying but hostile, replies that she is not lost. It is when the two look around, that they see the girl was being teased and bullied by her classmates. The girl also brought out their anger on them by yelling at them. Anri then goes on to introduce herself and Makoto to the girl, and says that they were on a trip. She also asked for the girl's name. The girl was hesitant, but she introduced herself as Chisa Hayazaki, a third-grade elementary schooler. Anri asked Chisa if she was getting ditched by those girls. Chisa replies by saying it is none of her business. Chisa goes on to say that she doesn't care about those losers, and that she cannot enjoy herself with people like them around her. Anri and Makoto know her feelings, and Anri tries to cheer her up by taking off her bunny ears and putting it on Chisa. She tells Chisa that she looks beautiful in it, and asks Makoto if he feels the same. Makoto says it looks good, but not as good as how it looked on Anri. Chisa is obviously overwhelmed by this, and tells them that they are making fun of her. However, Anri feels that Chisa can still be fixed, as she can still cry, unlike them. So, Anri tells Chisa that she is wasting her time sulking in a secluded area, and offers to take her to have a drink. Chisa agrees. Eventually, they do get there and have their drink. Chisa thanks Anri for what she did. Just then, Chisa's stomach grumbles from hunger. Chisa is obviously left blushing in embarrassment from this, whereas Anri thought it was normal as it was already time for lunch. So, Anri grabs her hand and decides to take her for lunch. Chisa is taken aback by this, and she asks just where she was taking her. Anri tells her that they're going for lunch. Makoto watches this, and thinks about how Anri is not really good at making invitations to anyone. Following this, the three of them go inside the restaurant. Anri says she is going to try the limited edition pasta set. After all, it was coming with special edition mucky goodies. Anri also asks Chisa what she's going for. Chisa checks out the menu and picks something for herself. Chisa checks her phone and finds out that she has been blocked by someone. This deeply upsets her, and she wonders why she even came here to begin with. To ease out the situation, Anri asks Chisa about the stuffed animal character on her bag. Chisa goes into defensive mode and declares that it's her favorite character. She also makes it clear that she won't be taking in any slander about pugs from Tetsuro the Bloody Brave. She considers it to be her friend. Anri relates to her and says that no one used to talk to her on the school bus. This shocks both Chisa and Makoto, as they didn't expect her to open up suddenly. Makoto chimes in, and adds that even he was misunderstood at school. He tried to help a girl at school, but got marked as a pervert. Anri adds that she was wrongfully accused of stealing someone else's man, and also got framed as a delinquent. Overall, they all have had their fair share of these things at school. It got to the point that Anri could no longer cry normally, and Makoto started having trust issues. Makoto also asked Chisa about Tetsuro, the character she likes. It's a character who is ostracized by the society, yet he carries on and becomes a valiant hero while traveling with a demon. So, there's a lot to learn from that. Chisa is happy to know that they don't make fun of Tetsuro. They try to normalize her even more by asking her if she likes any other stories. Chisa admits to liking an Isekai light novel, so they asked her for her favorite character. Chisa is unsure of whether or not she can talk about it, but once she's assured by the two of them, she speaks about it. She ends up taking a lot, and opens up to them. However, she does feel bad that her dream trip to Destiny Land got ruined. This is when Henry suggests that Chisa joins them so they can go around and have fun together. Chisa declines, as she doesn't want to interrupt Henry's date with Makoto. The two get embarrassed by it, and Chisa says that she will just find a place to chill and write, so it's fine. The two then clear it up that they aren't on a date, but Chisa insists that they're together, so it must be a date. However, it is still a bit embarrassing for them. Makoto composes himself and asks Chisa to join them, while referring to her as Paguko, the writer. Chisa is shocked, as she didn't think he would figure out who she was. Makoto explains that it was quite easy for him to figure out, as she had a pug stuffed animal, and mentions something about writing. Chisa is embarrassed, and asks if he is going to make fun of him like others. However, Henry informs her that Makoto isn't that kind of a guy. So, they get ready, and go on to have fun on the rest of the trip. They go around a lot, and take a lot of pictures, making for an enjoyable outing for everyone involved. Henry expresses how fun it was, and that she had taken so many pictures before. However, she really wanted to find Maki, but couldn't, so that's a downer. However, by now it was time for Henry and Chisa to leave and join up with the rest as their time was up. Chisa was a bit saddened by this. Makoto tells her that while he can't speak words of wisdom, he can tell her that despite being ostracized by the society, they've still become friends and had fun. So, he wants to meet with her again, and suggests that the three of them hang out together again. This makes Chisa happy and she agrees to meet up later. Following this, Chisa goes her own way, while Makoto and Henry go their own way. On the bus, Chisa feels no need to care about her bullies anymore and goes to check her phone. This is where she sees messages from Nyanta and Pamiko, who both asked to meet up with her. She understands who they were, and feels good that Henry and Makoto are just like her. The girl sitting beside Chisa tries to check out what she was doing. Chisa was initially taken aback, but she recovered quickly. The girl asked what she was doing, to which Chisa said she was on a novel site. Unexpectedly, the girl showed interest in knowing more about it. Meanwhile, the teacher is done addressing all the students in their meetup spot, and gives them the green light. She does tell them not to party too hard though. Henry and Makoto get ready to go out, and Makoto tells Henry that this time, they will surely be finding Maki. Henry is also excited about the prospect, as she expresses that she wants to take a picture with Maki and show it to Chisa, who couldn't see it. And so, they go off. However, as time passes by, Makoto gets tired and they see no signs of Maki. He mentions that he might have caught a glimpse of the character in the parade, but he lost it immediately. He tries to think about a way to find it, and suggests that maybe they should ask the people around them for a clue. Henry says it's fine, and that he doesn't need to go out of his way to find Maki for Chisa. Makoto thinks about how excited Henry was a while back, and states that he wants to find it for Henry. He is aware that she had wanted to meet Maki for a while now. Henry is impressed by Makoto's thoughtfulness, but turns him down. She says that they're better off relaxing somewhere, enjoying the parade and checking out the fireworks, instead of wasting time by walking around like that. Makoto ends up agreeing with her, as this is what she wanted. They go inside a restaurant to have something to eat and chat about various things. Once there, Henry mentions that she got a message from Chisa. In the message, Chisa informed her of making friends with the girl sitting beside her on the bus. They've been talking ever since then. Makoto is glad to know this too, and says that he is happy for Chisa, and that he is sure that she will do just fine from now on. More importantly, he thinks about how he is glad that Henry mustered up the courage to go and talk to Chisa. Open up to her. This helped Henry a lot. They took action at the right time, so it worked out well for Chisa. Just like how it worked out well for them because they took the action too. If it weren't for him writing a novel, he probably wouldn't be friends with Henry today. Now, he can't even imagine his school life without her. Sometimes, he wonders if they would even be friends if it weren't for him writing the novel. However, part of him thinks that they would have gotten together anyway, because Henry means a lot to Makoto. Henry notices that Makoto was thinking about something in silence, and decides to ask him what was wrong. She asked if he was missing Chisa. This is when Makoto makes it clear that he doesn't care because he has Henry with him. Henry is flustered, and asks him what he means. Makoto replies by saying that Henry is special to him, making her blush even more. Embarrassed, Henry tells Makoto that it's not the case, and that the actual special one is him. She immediately regrets it though, as it makes them both blush heavily. Shortly after, Makoto spots Maki outside the restaurant, and the two of them immediately run after it. Henry notes how it might be their last chance to see Maki today, and runs into the crowd full of people. Makoto follows her, and says that it's dangerous because there are too many people out there. She stumbles, but Makoto grabs her hand to stabilize her, saying it'll be bad if they get lost now. Henry smiles, as the two hold hands firmly. They end up not finding Maki, but Henry exclaims that she really enjoyed the day. Makoto said he felt the same. Henry couldn't trust anyone but her family, Makoto couldn't even trust his own family. But now, they were standing under the beautiful fireworks in the sky, finally having someone they can trust. Makoto didn't know what was in his heart. He looked at Henry's mesmerized face as she looked up in the sky, and thought he had lost all feelings. But then he met her. This is when Henry declares that Makoto is her special one. Makoto tightens his grip on her hand, as he had finally found someone he could love unconditionally. Makoto then asks Henry if he can call her by her first name. Henry agrees, but expresses that she wants to call him Shin-chan. She is approved, but the one approving her was Maki, who was standing behind them. Henry and Makoto are shocked, and end up smiling wholeheartedly as the day was a day that they can't forget. Makoto promises to always stay by Henry's side. Henry also promises to always be with him no matter what. They had mended each other's broken hearts. It wasn't too late after all, and they were finally able to start anew. The next day, we see that both Makoto and Henry have gotten matching Mucky badges for their school bags. Henry in particular was in a splendid mood. This is when her mother calls her downstairs. Henry comes down, and is annoyed by her loudness, but she sees that Makoto has come to their house to go to school together. Seeing the romantic tension between the two, Henry's mother is impressed, and she tries to tease Henry a little by trying to fix her bow. Henry quickly gets out of there, while Henry's mother invites Makoto to join them for dinner sometime. Following this, the two of them head out for school. On their way, Henry mentions how her mother is interested in talking to Makoto. However, she is assuming that her mother is doing this to tease Makoto. However, Makoto doesn't think it's like that with her mother. Makoto also goes on to point out how Henry doesn't refer to him as Shin-chan in front of her mother. Henry, blushing red, mentions that it is because she feels embarrassed to do it. Makoto sees this and playfully teases her for a bit. Following this, Henry remembers that Makoto needs to go to her sister's editorial office this weekend for work. Makoto confirms it, and says that it must be hard for Siko to work Saturdays too. Henry is a bit hesitant, but she musters up some courage to tell Makoto that she wants to go along with him. Makoto is not bothered by this at all, and even tells Henry that he would come to her house to pick her up early. Henry is happy to know this, and also suggests that they go to a karaoke shop after the meeting there is over. Makoto is not used to it, so he gives it some thought before agreeing. Henry is happy, and looks forward to going to the karaoke once the work is done. She also asks if they can also invite Chisa to join them, to which Makoto said he will try to do so. Next up, at school, Makoto notices that a few of his classmates were talking about Henry. They mention how she has become a much livelier person. Her tough girl attitude is gone, and she is shining because of it. One of them mentions that he has a crush on her. Makoto is heavily irritated by this conversation. He doesn't understand why, but he really felt jealous, probably because of the way they were talking about her. After all, his feelings for Henry are much deeper than that of friendship. But he doesn't want to consider it love and ruin his connection with Henry. This is when he comes back to his senses and sees that Henry was right there, and she wanted to go home with him. Makoto agrees right away. Shizuka noticed this and also wanted to tag along and go home with Makoto. However, she is quickly subdued by Saito, who apologizes. Saito, with a soft look on her face, also greets Makoto bye, before leaving. Henry felt a pang of jealousy from this, and started pouting. Makoto notices this and asks Henry if she is being like that out of hunger. Henry denies it, and instead asks if he was good friends with Saito back in the days. Makoto says yes, to which Henry asks him why doesn't he just make up with her now that everything is okay. Makoto emphatically tells Henry that the only one he cares about is Henry herself. Henry snaps out, and says that she doesn't think it is like that though. Following this, a moment of silence surrounds them, before they decide to go home. Once they reach home, they both start working on their projects in silence. After a while, Henry speaks up. She says that she has always been a bit afraid of men from childhood. She had a male friend called Nikedu, who was often very rough with her, and made fun of her. Despite that, it wasn't all bad and they were good friends. As they got older and middle school started, a distance formed, but Nikedu would still come and talk to her every now and then. This was strange to others, as Nikedu already had a girlfriend, or rather, a fiancé. Yet, he talked to Henry a lot. So, the girls in her class started questioning her character. This is when Makoto tells her to stop, not wanting her to say more things about her traumatic past. Henry then tells Makoto to hold her hand, which he does. She mentions that her hands would shake when she thought about the past, but now it doesn't anymore. She started feeling at ease when they first met up and talked at the food court. Even on the school trip, when Makoto held her hand, she felt secure and didn't panic. Yet, when she was alone, she would shake a lot and panic. So, she says that Makoto is the one who healed her hurt. Saying this, she gets up, goes behind Makoto to make him feel at ease and holds his hand. She then says that she would like to heal his heart now. This gesture from Henry makes Makoto tear up. He cries as he talks about his rough past. He wanted to play football with the other kids. He wanted to get along and go on school trips. He thought his sister was cute, but she was an idiot who pushed him away. He wanted to be close to his family, and wanted to have dinner with them. He just wanted someone who could hold him during his worst times. He thought the past didn't matter to him, but it does. He was just trying to ignore the past. This is when Henry hugs him from behind, and tells Makoto that she will be there for him, no matter what. Makoto finally realizes that he can no longer fool himself. He is in love with Henry. She is the person he holds the dearest in this world. And so, he looked her in the eye. Henry asked if something was wrong, to which Makoto finally smiles and says that he finally might be able to write a good love story now. Next up, on Saturday, Henry and Makoto go for Makoto's meeting with Siko. They see businessmen walk around the area. They're a bit awestruck by how big the building is, and how people work here on weekends too. Makoto mentions that he heard the office was big, but didn't know that it was this big. Henry tells Makoto to cheer up a bit, as he is here for a huge meeting, and needs to stand up for himself. Makoto agreed, but his nerves were getting the better of him. Henry tells him that he needs to go and talk to the receptionist and introduce himself. She asks him if he can do that, which makes Makoto sigh. She also says that if he cannot, she's always there to help him do so. She also says that she can call Siko and tell her to come down. Makoto says that he is glad that she is here with him. As the two get a bit closer, Siko suddenly comes out, looking like a mess from overworking. She apologizes for looking this way, before refreshing herself and greeting Makoto. She then takes them inside, and tells them to come to her editorial office. As they were walking towards the room, Siko was carefully strutting her way to her editorial office when she suddenly noticed that Henry and Makoto were holding hands, and this surprised her. She asks if the two are dating, and if so, since when. Henry, flustered, quickly denies her assumption, saying it is nothing like that. Siko is confused by all this, as she doesn't understand the newer generation, and wonders if being so close to each other, while pretending to be not dating, is some new ritual. However, she does add that she needs an explanation about this from Henry when they're home. Next up, they enter Siko's room, and Makoto is mesmerized. He checks out posters of manga and novels that he has collected over the time. He saw that the series was getting an anime adaptation, and dreamed about his own series getting one someday too. Henry notices how excited Makoto looks and is happy to see this. Makoto wants to take the first step of achieving his new dream through this meeting, so he wants to waste no time. Siko tells him about the meeting room, and tells Henry to wait in the waiting room. Before going, Henry wishes Makoto the best of luck, and Makoto promises to come back soon. Siko is swooned over how they're behaving like newlyweds, and feels like she's the bad guy for separating. She teases Henry a bit about this, whereas Makoto makes a beeline for the meeting room to avoid the embarrassment. Following this, they have their meeting. When it's done, Makoto mentions that he feels nervous when talking business, even though they're acquaintances. Siko understands that he must have found the contract talk and paperwork to be boring, so she doesn't want to hold him for too long and says she will discuss more later. She also mentions how Makoto looks much better nowadays, probably because he is in love with her sister. Makoto is taken aback by this, but Siko continues on about how her sister is an incredible girl, who is good at writing and studies. She does trust Makoto as well, so she's fine with her dating him. Makoto tries to deny the rumors, but Siko, in a much more serious tone, makes it clear that if he makes Henry cry, he will have to pay for it with his life. This intimidates Makoto, but Siko, now normal, tells him to go out quickly, or else Henry will get mad at her. After all, they do have a date. Makoto tries to deny it, but Siko just won't have it. Makoto gets out of the room, and the first thing he sees is an eager Henry waiting for him. Henry immediately comes over to him, and asks him about the meeting. Makoto thinks she should have just waited in the waiting room, but adds that the meeting went well. He also praises her sister for being a good editor. Henry is glad. She mentions that she's happy that she didn't mess with him, because if she did, she would have kicked the door open. Makoto is also glad that nothing bad happened. Makoto then grabs Henry's hand, which makes her smile, and Henry tells him to get ready for karaoke and pancakes. Siko watches this from behind the door, and wishes she could join them. Henry waves her goodbye, and so Henry and Makoto go out for their date. They make their way out of the building, and Makoto is glad that all the work is done. He mentions how he was a bit nervous at first. It did end up going quite well, so he is happy about that. As they walk, Makoto says that the place they've come to now is a lot more lively and bustling than where Siko's office was. Henry says that she's looking forward to having a lot of fun. Siko told her that the place is just down the street. The prospect of having pancakes and doing karaoke has her stoked. As they walk past various stores, Henry is mesmerized by the clothes in the clothing stores. She also likes the ice cream in the ice cream vendor. She's interested in the cosmetics in the domestic store and also likes the sweets in the bakery there. This is when she gets a message from Chisa. The message told her that she was already very close to the store. Makoto is shocked by how quick she is. Henry informs him about how Chisa is constantly asking if she's interrupting their date. This question has Henry baffled, as she doesn't know why everyone thinks they're on a date, while Makoto blushes. To change the topic, Makoto asks where the pancake shop is supposed to be. Henry quickly remembers that they've probably gone too far past it. However, she does state that just holding hands and walking with Makoto makes every store look good, and makes her lose track of time. They walk back, and Makoto was about to say something important to Henry, but they're interrupted by Chisa, who is already there. She quickly goes over to greet Henry, with whom she has developed a sisterly bond with. They hug, and Henry asks her about her studies, and whether or not she thinks she can pass the exams. Chisa is not very confident, but does say that she will at least get an average score. Following this, Chisa also greets Makoto. Henry asks Chisa if she has made some progress and made new friends. Chisa says that she did, and that she actually has a male friend now. Henry is shocked by this, and she goes into a full interrogation mood. She asks if this male friend of Chisa is cool. She wonders if this male friend is also her boyfriend. Seeing her asking so many questions, Makoto starts teasing both Chisa and Henry. Chisa is obviously overwhelmed by the amount of questions being thrown at her. Henry scolds Makoto for teasing Chisa, to which Makoto says that he did it to play along with Henry. Chisa changes the topic by telling Henry that she is craving to eat something. She also adds that it's been a while since she has interacted with Makoto. She then goes over to him and grabs Makoto's hand. Henry grabs his other hand and guides the two of them to the restaurant, as she wishes to get along. Once inside, they're greeted and told to take their seat. Chisa goes on about how she has never been to such a fancy restaurant, hence why she is feeling cold feet. Whereas, Makoto tells her it is normal, as he hasn't been to such a place before either. Henry tells them to calm down and just enjoy the experience. Following this, the three of them settle down and start checking out the menu. Henry and Chisa are gobsmacked by how good the menu looks. To them, everything on that menu looked good except for the pancakes. Makoto is confused by this because they came here specifically to get pancakes. However, the girls don't care and go on about how one of them is craving for a parfait, while the other wants crepe. Makoto once again made it clear that he only wants to have pancakes, but he is told to shut up by the two girls. Afterward, Henry suggests that they share and pick whatever they want to. Henry wants a parfait, Chisa wants a crepe, while Makoto just wants to have some pancakes. After they're done deciding what to get, Henry decides to place the order. Makoto understands that this is how it works between friends, while Chisa expresses just how fun this whole thing is. Henry also talks about how this is an unbelievable moment for her. Never had she imagined that she could have a sweet treat with friends, but here she was, doing it. Makoto is glad to see that she's happy. After that, Henry points out how the baker was making the crepe, and he adds that the baker is also preparing the parfait she ordered. Chisa is shocked by how the crepe was literally on fire, so Henry explains that the technique is called flambeing. They're all mesmerized by the food when it arrives on their table. Henry has a bite of her parfait, and says that it is just as delicious as it looks. Chisa has her crepe, and admits to never having a crepe this good. Meanwhile, Makoto has his pancakes, and finally understands why the pancakes are so popular. Henry then offers him to have a bite from their food too. Makoto agrees to do so, while he thinks about the situation. He thinks about how they've always been stuck in the past. He never had friends he could trust, either did Henry or Chisa. Yet now, they'd become friends. They hold hands, hang out, have something to eat, and just enjoy the moment. He can no longer say that he doesn't trust anyone. This is when Henry offers to feed him some parfait with her own hands. Makoto declines, but Henry forces him to take it. He does, and Henry asks if he doesn't like it. Makoto explains that he does, but the situation is a bit embarrassing. However, at that moment, Makoto felt like he could cry from the sheer happiness he was feeling. After they're done eating, the three of them make their way out of the restaurant. All of them are left satisfied as the food was quite good. Suddenly, Chisa informs Makoto and Henry that she is going home. Makoto and Henry are surprised, as they expected her to join them for karaoke, and they ask her to do so. Chisa, flustered, admits that she has promised a friend to study together with them. Henry understands what she means, while Makoto directly asks her if the friend is the male friend she mentioned earlier. Chisa is embarrassed and spins it around to not answer them. Instead, she expresses her gratitude towards them, saying that she feels lucky to have friends like them, and that she would like to keep in touch with them. And so, she goes off. Seeing her leave, Henry and Makoto are left a bit saddened, but they're happy for her, as she seemingly had made some nice friends. However, Chisa stops midway and looks back at them, before loudly cheering them on to have a great date. This left both Makoto and Henry flustered. Henry tries to play it cool by calling Chisa childish and asks Makoto to hurry up to the karaoke. Once in there, the atmosphere is quite tense between the two, and words are spoken few and far between. Eventually, Henry asks for Makoto's assistance in selecting a song. She asks Makoto what kind of songs he usually likes to sing when doing karaoke. After all, she doesn't recall ever seeing him sing. Makoto lets her know that he has never done karaoke before. This shocks Henry, as she didn't expect this from him. Makoto takes a deep breath in, before saying that it's not his first time. The last time he was here though, he was tricked. Henry immediately apologizes to him for reminding him of a bad memory. Makoto suddenly pats Henry's head, and tells her that it's fine, because she is with him, and thanks her for the help. Henry, with a softer look on her face, asks him why he is acting like this nowadays. Makoto elaborates that it's not just something recent. He always feels happy and safe when he is with her. Initially, he was afraid of coming to the karaoke, because he was afraid that it would remind him of the traumatic past. He was afraid of annoying her, because he doesn't want to be seen that way. However, he smiles and says it's fine now because she is with him. He feels happy and really enjoyed the quote-unquote date of theirs. Henry smiles and says that she also enjoyed a lot thanks to Makoto. As both of them smiled happily, Makoto changes the topic and mentions that he is focused on pushing his book out. Henry assures him that it'll be just fine, and when the book eventually comes out, the two of them will go together to see it. Afterward, Henry hesitantly informs Makoto that she is writing a novel herself. Makoto is pleasantly surprised to learn this, and Henry attributes this to Makoto. She adds that she is once again enjoying the process of writing novels like before, and it is all because of him. Makoto smiles and tells her that it's because she is working hard and not him. He also asks her about the title of her novel. This makes Henry blush deep red. She barely squeaks out that she will be telling him about it later. She immediately changes the topic by telling him to sing, because they're in a karaoke after all. Makoto was a bit perplexed and asks why she isn't telling him the title, to which Henry says it is for fun. Henry asks him to sing again, but Makoto wants her to sing, as he doesn't really sing songs. He doesn't know much about singing. This puts Henry in a confusing spot. She thinks about what to do in this situation before coming up with an idea. She suggests that Makoto just shouts out what he wants to do from now onwards. Makoto blushes and says that it's too embarrassing. However, Henry wants to do it because it's their special day, and so she forces it on him to say it out while she says her own wishes. Before she can say hers though, Makoto loudly yells out that he wants to be with Henry every day. He wants to see his books on display with Henry. He wants to eat pancakes with Henry. Henry is flustered by hearing this and tells him that she only wanted him to say one wish, which leaves Makoto embarrassed. Henry also thinks of how the title of her book is The Most Important Person in the World. The next day, Makoto arrives at Henry's place in the morning. Henry's mother informs him that Henry has overslept again. Makoto tells her it is okay. She goes on about how Henry talks about Makoto all day at home, and that she's glad that the two are getting along so well with each other. Siko also comes and greets Makoto, asking if Henry overslept again. Makoto told her it is fine, and that he is willing to wait for her no matter how long it takes, as being unpunctual isn't always a bad thing. This makes both Siko and her mother smile. Following this, Henry comes rushing downstairs and apologizes to Makoto for making him wait. She also wonders why her sister and mother were smirking, but they say it's for nothing, and that it's nice to be young. Understanding something fishy was up in the air, Henry quickly leaves the place with Makoto. As the two were chatting and walking to school, they ran into Makoto's sister, Haruka, Kisaragi, and Minami. They were talking about how Nanako's karaoke thing was a misunderstanding and how she should clear it up. Just then, Haruka looks back at Makoto and greets him in surprise. She is left a bit uncomfortable after seeing him so suddenly. Makoto greets Haruka back and wastes no time in telling her that he actually doesn't like rice cakes. Haruka is taken aback by this. He says that he really wants his sister to know about this, so he said it. He also asks Minami and Kisaragi to take good care of Haruka. Haruka tears up a little, as Makoto referred to her as his sister after a long time. The fact that he did so made her very happy. She tries to tell him about Nanako, but he just tells them that he'll talk to them later, and leaves with Henry. After Henry and Makoto reach school, they run into Miyazaki. Makoto greets Miyazaki and mentions how she has gotten a new haircut. She also greets him back. Miyazaki probably wanted to apologize to him for the past, but Makoto stopped her. He told Miyazaki that he is fine now. Miyazaki says she understands, and Makoto leaves. But as he does so, Miyazaki has a satisfactory smile on her face. Next up, inside the classroom, Makoto and Henry were talking about the upcoming sports day. Henry says that Makoto must be looking forward to participating in baseball, because he is a boy after all. Makoto is not quite sure about it, but he does remember playing catch when he was a kid. Some other guys in the class overhear Henry and Makoto talking, and they gossip about how the two get along. This pisses off Henry, who yells at the two guys, basically scaring them off. Makoto tells Henry that she shouldn't use that tone of voice anymore, but Henry says she has to, because she still can't hold a normal conversation, making Makoto giggle. Meanwhile, the two guys leave, and Saito feels thankful towards Henry for doing that. The scene fast forwards to a few months later, where Makoto is standing outside in the winter, waiting for Henry. There, he thinks about how he has made up his mind, as Henry arrives and apologizes for keeping him waiting for so long. They stand outside the bookstore, as Makoto expresses how he feels anxious thinking about whether or not their books are really there. He also thinks about how Henry is always there for him, and how she is more than just his best friend. Henry offers Makoto her hand, and he grabs onto it willingly, as it makes him feel better. As the two get inside the store, Makoto feels like his heart is swelling up. Makoto was stressed out about the matter, but Henry tells him to own up to it, which he agrees to. As planned, the two of them look at the shelves at the same time, and they see their books there. Makoto felt a feeling that he didn't even know. They notice how their books were ironically lined up next to each other. This made them laugh, while Makoto on the inside thinks about how he finally noticed it. He has finally come to realize for sure that on this memorable day, he is no longer stuck in the past. For once in his life, he has finally moved on, and he is at a point where he can think about the future. So he has decided to tell her about it. He brings up the name of Henry's book, The Most Important Person in the World. Henry laughs, as she accepts that she is still a bit embarrassed about coming up with a title like that. This is when Makoto calls out to her, and finally, Makoto goes around to say that the most important person in his life is Henry Shinizuka. She is, without a doubt, the most favorite person in his life. These emotions hit Henry like a truck, as she blushes and looks down. Makoto then follows up on this, and declares that he loves Henry the most in the whole world, thus bringing a sweet and happy conclusion to the love story of two nerds, Nianta and Pamiko.